You're about to lose people you care about, not because you're doing anything wrong, not because you're becoming cold or selfish, but because growth is incompatible with certain relationships, and nobody wants to tell you that. Here's what's really happening. You're changing. You're setting boundaries. You're choosing differently. And the people who benefited from the old version of you, they're uncomfortable. They might call you different. They might say you've changed, and they're right. You have changed. The question is, why does that terrify you so much? Because here's the truth, nobody tells you. The cost of staying the same is always higher than the cost of growth. But growth has a price tag too, and that price is often paid in relationships. Let me tell you something that's going to sting. Some people in your life don't want you to grow, not because they're evil, not because they don't love you, but because your growth threatens the version of the relationship that works for them. Think about it. Every relationship you have was built on a foundation of who you were when it started. You had certain patterns, certain availability, certain tolerance levels. You said yes when you meant no. You prioritized their needs over your own. You accepted treatment that made you feel small because you didn't know you deserved better. That person, that version of you, kept the peace, and the people around you got comfortable with that person. Now you're evolving. You're recognizing your worth. You're setting boundaries. You're pursuing goals that require your time and energy. You're no longer available to play the role you played before. And suddenly, there's friction. Here's what's happening in those moments. You're not losing people. You're losing access to the version of yourself that wasn't serving you. And the people who can't adapt to your growth are revealing something crucial. They were more attached to your dysfunction than your well-being. This is uncomfortable, but important. Not everyone who was with you at one level can go with you to the next. Some relationships have expiration dates. Some people are meant for chapters, not the whole book. And recognizing this isn't cruel. It's honest. Let me show you exactly what's happening. There are specific patterns at play when your growth starts to cost you relationships. Understanding these will help you navigate this without unnecessary guilt. Pattern number 1, the role revolt. In every relationship, we play roles. The helper, the listener, the fun one, the reliable one, the one who always shows up. These roles feel like your identity, but they're actually agreements, often unspoken, about what you'll provide in exchange for belonging. When you grow, you renegotiate these agreements. Maybe you were the friend who always answered at 2 a.m. Now you've learned that healthy boundaries include protecting your sleep. Maybe you were the family member who hosted every holiday, exhausted and resentful. Now you've decided to split the responsibility. Here's the thing that changes everything. The people who benefited from your role won't see this as growth. They'll see it as abandonment. They'll say, "You've changed," with disappointment in their voice, and you'll feel guilty, because you have changed. You're supposed to change. The role revolt happens when you stop performing the character you've been playing and start being the person you actually are. Pattern number 2. The mirror effect. Your growth holds up a mirror to other people's stagnation. This is not your fault, but it is your reality. When you start going to therapy, the friend who refuses to address their trauma feels judged, even if you never said a word. When you quit drinking, the people who use alcohol to cope feel uncomfortable around you. When you start building a business, the people who complain about their jobs but won't take action feel confronted by your initiative. You didn't do anything to them, but your evolution illuminates their choices. And instead of being inspired, some people will be threatened. They'll minimize your progress. They'll predict your failure. They'll find reasons why what you're doing won't work. This isn't about you. This is about them avoiding the discomfort of looking at their own lives and asking, "What am I not doing that I know I should be doing?" Your growth gives them 2 options: grow with you or create distance. Some will choose distance because it's easier than change. Pattern number 3. The energy economics. Every relationship has an energy exchange. Some relationships energize you. You leave conversations feeling inspired, seen, supported. Other relationships drain you. You leave feeling exhausted, criticized, or small. When you're not conscious of your worth, you accept unbalanced exchanges. You pour into people who don't pour back. You show up for people who cancel on you. You celebrate people who minimize your wins. As you grow, you become aware of these imbalances, not in a petty, score-keeping way, but in a self-preservation way. You start to recognize that your energy is your most valuable resource. You start to choose relationships that feel reciprocal, This is where people get lost, because the moment you stop overgiving, the people who were under-receiving will accuse you of changing. They'll say you're not the same friend, partner, or family member you used to be. They're right. You're not. Because you're no longer willing to deplete yourself to maintain a relationship that doesn't nourish you. If these patterns are clicking for you, if you're thinking, this is exactly what I've been experiencing, but couldn't name, this is why I create this content every week. I break down the psychology behind the patterns that keep us stuck so you can move forward with clarity instead of confusion. Hit subscribe so you never miss these insights. Every week, we're diving into the uncomfortable truths about relationships, growth, and becoming the person you're meant to be. If you're ready to understand yourself at this level, you belong here. Pattern number 4, the scarcity trap. Here's a belief that keeps people trapped in outgrown relationships. If I lose these people, I'll be alone. This fear is real, and it's valid, but it's also based on a scarcity mindset that says, these are the only people I'll ever have. Here's what actually happens. When you release relationships that don't fit your growth, you create space for relationships that do. But you can't meet your aligned people while you're still clinging to misaligned ones out of fear. Think of it like moving to a new city. You wouldn't stay in your old apartment because you're afraid you won't find a new one. You'd trust that when you're ready and you're looking, the right place will appear. Relationships work the same way. The people who are meant for your next level can't find you if you're still forcing yourself to fit in the spaces you've outgrown. Pattern number 5. The authenticity gap. This is the most painful pattern and the most important one to understand. As you grow, you become more yourself. You shed the personas you adopted to please others. You speak more honestly. You honor your needs. You stop pretending to enjoy things you don't enjoy or agree with things you don't believe. You close the gap between who you are and who you present yourself as. But here's what happens. Some people fell in love with the persona, not the person. They liked the version of you that agreed with everything they said, that laughed at jokes that weren't funny, that went along to get along. When you start showing up authentically, they feel betrayed. Because the person they thought you were is disappearing. But that person was never real. You were just performing to belong. The people who love the real you will celebrate your authenticity. The people who love the performance will mourn its end. Let them. That grief is not your responsibility. So, why does this happen? Why can't people just be happy for your growth? Let's talk about the neuroscience and psychology at play. First, the human brain is wired for consistency and predictability. We're pattern recognition machines. When someone in our life changes significantly, it triggers a threat response in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting danger. The brain interprets change as potential loss of safety, even when the change is positive. So when you change, the people around you experience a low-level stress response. They're not being malicious. Their nervous systems are literally perceiving your transformation as a threat to the established order of the relationship. Second, we form our identities in relation to other people. You're not just you in isolation. You're someone's partner, someone's friend, someone's child. These relational identities give us a sense of self and belonging. When you change, it forces everyone around you to recalibrate their own identity. If you are the responsible one, and you start taking risks, the person who was the adventurous one loses their distinguishing feature. If you were the one who needs help, and you become self-sufficient, the person who was the helper loses their purpose. Your growth doesn't just change you, it changes the entire ecosystem of your relationships. Third, relationships based on dysfunction don't survive wellness. This is crucial. If a friendship was built on complaining about your jobs together, what happens when one of you finds work you love? If a relationship was bonded by shared victimhood, what happens when one person starts taking responsibility for their life? The relationship loses its foundation, and instead of building a new foundation, some people will try to pull you back to the old one. Not because they're bad people, but because they don't know how to relate to you outside of the original dynamic. Finally, some people are scared of their own potential. When they see you growing, they're confronted with the possibility of their own growth, and the work it would require. They're forced to ask themselves, if they can change, why haven't I? That question is terrifying, and instead of sitting with it and using it as motivation, they'll project that fear onto you. They'll criticize your choices. They'll predict failure. They'll find evidence that you're wrong. This isn't about you. This is about them protecting themselves from the discomfort of their own unrealized potential. Now, This is important. Let's talk about the guilt you're feeling. You're not a bad person for outgrowing relationships. You're not selfish for prioritizing your growth. You're not cold for setting boundaries. You're not heartless for recognizing when a relationship has run its course. You're human. And humans are designed to evolve. Think about this. You wouldn't expect yourself to wear the same clothes you wore 10 years ago and feel comfortable. You wouldn't try to squeeze yourself into shoes that are 3 sizes too small. You understand that your physical needs change as you grow. Why do we expect ourselves to stay comfortable in relationships we've outgrown? The guilt you feel isn't proof that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you were taught that your needs are less important than other people's comfort. You were taught that being a good person means sacrificing yourself to maintain relationships, even when those relationships hurt you. That's not virtue, that's self-abandonment. Here's what I want you to understand. The people you're losing weren't necessarily bad people. They might have been right for you at one time. They might have served an important purpose in your life. You can honor what they gave you while also acknowledging that the relationship has reached its natural end. You don't have to villainize them to justify leaving. You don't have to make them wrong to make yourself right. You can simply recognize, this relationship was for then, not for now. And the grief you feel, that's real. You're allowed to mourn relationships even when you're the one choosing to release them. You're allowed to miss people even when you know staying connected isn't healthy. You're allowed to feel loss even when the loss is making room for gain. Growth doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't let pain stop you. So, what do you actually do? How do you navigate this without burning everything down or staying stuck? Step 1. Audit your relationships honestly. Get clear on what you're actually dealing with. For each important relationship in your life, ask yourself, does this person celebrate my growth, or do they feel threatened by it? Do I feel energized or depleted after spending time with them? Can I be authentically myself, or do I perform a role? Does this relationship support who I'm becoming, or who I used to be? If we met today, would I choose this relationship? This isn't about judging people as good or bad. It's about getting honest about fit. A person can be wonderful and still not be right for your next chapter. Step 2. Communicate before you disappear. Here's where most people mess this up. They recognize a relationship isn't working, feel guilty about it, and then just slowly fade away. They avoid conflict by avoiding the person entirely. This leaves both people in limbo. If it's a relationship that matters, or mattered, have the uncomfortable conversation, not to convince them to change, not to defend yourself, but to be honest about what's happening. You can say something like, I've been doing a lot of inner work, and I'm realizing I need to make some changes in how I show up in relationships. I care about you, and I want to be honest. I'm not able to be as available as I used to be. That's not about you. It's about me protecting my energy so I can keep growing. Some people will understand, some won't. Either way, you've honored the relationship by being honest. Step 3. Create transition space. Not every relationship needs to end completely. Some just need to shift. Maybe the friend you used to see every week becomes someone you check in with monthly. Maybe the family dynamic that felt suffocating becomes manageable, with clear boundaries and less frequency. Maybe the relationship that was based on proximity and convenience becomes something lighter and less demanding. You don't have to slam doors. You can let them close slowly. Give yourself permission to create distance without drama. You don't need permission from the other person to change the terms of your availability. You can simply show up differently and let the relationship find its new shape, or not. Step 4. Grieve without regressing. This is crucial. You will feel grief. You will feel lonely. You will wonder if you made a mistake. You will be tempted to go back to old relationships just to ease the discomfort of the transition. Don't. Loneliness during growth is not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're in the in-between space, no longer who you were, not yet surrounded by the people who match who you're becoming. Let yourself feel the grief without letting it make decisions for you. Journal about it. Talk to a therapist. Cry if you need to. But don't use the temporary pain of transition as evidence that you should stop growing. The discomfort of growth is temporary. The discomfort of staying small is permanent. Step 5. Become the kind of person who attracts your next level. Here's the truth. You won't meet your aligned people by waiting for them to appear. You meet them by becoming so fully yourself that you naturally magnetize people who resonate with that frequency. Focus on your growth, pursue your interests, join communities aligned with your values, show up authentically in spaces that matter to you. The right people will find you, not because you're looking for them, but because you're no longer hiding who you are. And this is important. The quality of your next level relationships will match the quality of your relationship with yourself. If you respect yourself, you'll attract people who respect you. If you set boundaries, you'll attract people who honor them. If you're authentic, you'll attract people who value authenticity. You become the filter by being yourself. Imagine this. A year from now, you're surrounded by people who genuinely celebrate your wins, not people who tolerate your success while secretly hoping you'll shrink back down. People who are actually happy for you. You have friendships where you don't walk on eggshells, where you can be honest about your struggles without being judged, where support flows both ways without resentment or scorekeeping. You have relationships that energize you instead of drain you. You finish conversations feeling inspired, not exhausted. You look forward to connecting, not dreading it out of obligation. You've stopped performing, you've stopped pretending, you've stopped contorting yourself into shapes that don't fit just to maintain relationships that were making you small. You're free, not because you have more relationships, but because you have the right ones, the ones that match the person you've become and the person you're becoming. You look back at the people you lost and realize they weren't taken from you. They were released so you could receive something better. And better doesn't mean perfect. It means aligned. You understand now that loyalty isn't about staying in relationships that hurt you. Real loyalty is staying true to your growth, even when it costs you comfort. And here's what nobody tells you about the other side of this transition. The people who were meant for your next level. They were also looking for you. They were also releasing relationships that didn't fit. They were also wondering if they'd be alone forever. You're not losing your people. You're finding them. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching, you're ready for real change. You've just invested over 10 minutes in understanding yourself better, in giving yourself permission to grow even when it's uncomfortable. You're not alone in this. This community is full of people navigating the same transitions, asking the same questions, doing the hard work of becoming who they're meant to be. We're all learning to honor our growth, even when it costs us relationships we thought we'd keep forever. Subscribe to be part of this ongoing transformation. Every week, we're diving deeper into the psychology of growth, relationships, and breaking free from patterns that no longer serve us. You belong here. Welcome to the next level. Here's your challenge for this week. Identify one relationship that's been draining you. Not to end it immediately, but to get honest with yourself about what it's costing you. Write it down. Name the pattern. Acknowledge the truth you've been avoiding. And then ask yourself, if I keep prioritizing this person's comfort over my growth, who will I be a year from now? You already know the answer. Your next level is waiting, but it requires you to release who you've been to become who you're meant to be. And yes, that means losing some people along the way. It's worth it. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs permission to grow, even if it costs them relationships. Comment and tell me, which pattern hit hardest for you? I read every single one, and your insights help this community grow stronger. Subscribe as you commit to this transformation, not just to a channel, but to yourself, to your growth, to the person you're becoming. You've got this. I'll see you next week.